tree. And this is where sometimes we're in a space that we don't see the tree.
Mm,
We don't see certain, we don't see, I'm sorry, we don't see the whole picture.
mm.
It's in front of us. So it's important for us to understand what it looks like. And so all of us have an assignment here on earth. And what is that assignment? We came with a picture. And what is that picture that we're going to fulfill? And it's layers. And he made a valid point. Some of those roots that are on top may not ever reach the bottom. It may not ever reach the bottom. And that's okay because whatever it's supposed to be doing in that layer and whatever we're supposed to be doing, but sometimes we can get sidetracked on what we're taught, who's in our ear, and the things around us. So it's important. Like I know this platform, Dr. Clark talks a lot about money and finances, and he talks a little bit about his health, which I'm excited that he's doing that more and more. It's an opportunity for us to understand the layers that we are in, and this current that we're in is important for us to understand the layers of even our thought, our emotion, our beliefs, our identity, even concerning our money, even concerning what we say, even concerning what we do, even with this AI thing that's happening. So it's important. I want to thank Brother Sampson for even bringing us so we can see the whole picture when something is presented and complete.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Because yeah, there's so many times that things can be presented to us that we just don't allow for ourselves to be aware of. And I appreciate Dr. Sher bringing that up because, even looking at the picture now, the picture becomes much more refined. You start to look at the root system as not just roots, but you start to see, how integral do you allow yourself to be connected in certain things? And remember, it's not a make wrong. It's about, okay, what were you exposed to so you can become aware? There are times that we're seeing, and I know last week we were talking about like Nolan Wells and things of that nature. And you start to see in this past week they had his home going. And you start to recognize, that was a powerful tree, another powerful tree that we don't know how far that root system could have went. What what could have happened? And all those I couldas and wouldas and shouldas, and you sit there like, wow. It becomes much more paramount for us to be aware from a spiritual sense, aware from a health sense, aware definitely from a financial sense, because no one's coming to save us. If we're not willing to be in community and share pertinent information that's going to allow for full development. And full development is not about you, okay, you're a good person and you believe in God. That's great. But you're walking up 20 flights in a building that has a broken elevator. That's not making any good sense. There's a disconnect somewhere. There was something that was established in your identity that's allowing you to move like that. And some of it, and most of it, and some of it is, I'm gonna say most of it and some of it. And I know it may sound like a dichotomy, but actually isn't. A lot of this stuff is systemic. Even up to when they was talking about the World Cup final this past week. And Argentina, regardless if they have one of the greatest soccer players in the world, has been known to be very, very disgusting when it came to their Afro Argentines, and also even some of the things that you can find out from a historical standpoint of how they dealt with people from the diaspora, from the continent of Akibalan, and to see how they turned their backs while Spain was celebrated. It's funny when you laugh at it to see how most of the Spain won, and most of the individuals who are the best players are all African descent, and it just makes you laugh. Because Spain is not too far from the northern part of Africa. It just makes you laugh. With the Argentinians turning their back and then want to, showing very poor taste. But Sometimes your true character comes out, like how we talk about here in the United States. Sometimes your true character comes out. You know, we have a man in office who has lied from day one. The war is going to be over. I'm going to end that war in Russia and Ukraine on day one. Lie. I'm not going to start any new wars. Lie. I'm not going to cut, health care because I'm still jealous over Obamacare. Lie. I'm going to lower your grocery bills and I'm going to make sure you lie, 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 lie. Now, what do you do with that? Do you recognize the spade as a spade and say, okay, now I know how to course correct? Because their particular root system is going to be for themselves. But when you start to recognize that humanity should have different points where we allow all the different colors to work together. And if we allow that, then things will eventually one day get better for this particular globe that's spinning very fast that we don't feel it as we keep moving. So we're going to move on. Great conversation. Great conversation. Okay, Ms. Johnson, can you read this slide for us, please?
Symbols matter. Throughout history, people have used rituals, language, stories, symbols, music, and ceremony. These practices can reinforce shared values, identity, and meaning.
Mm-hmm. And as we can see by the picture, I'm seeing a scroll, I'm seeing some bowls, I'm seeing different artifacts, different expressions. And it's interesting at times, sometimes we look at someone else's expression and want to make their expression wrong. Why is that like that? And it's not like how it is now. It's not just this and it's not just that. It's like, wow. How did we ended up limiting the creator of the universe into it's just this? And that's why the symbols do matter. And you start to respect the fact that the symbols matter for this cultural dispensation, and the symbols do matter for that cultural dispensation. And one of the things that they did, especially with us as African descent, is that when they saw our symbols, they attempted to minimize it or demonize it, or to say that it was otherness, or to say, but you need that as part of your foundation from a cultural diasporic standpoint. And it almost becomes a very, very pertinent crime. When people can't remember, it's like, I can trace my lineage to this and I can trace my lineage to that. But if you say my lineage is this, that means it must be something wrong with them. Who said it was something wrong? Who made up that rule? People from the Caucasus Mountains? This makes you wonder. Now, Ms. Johnson, how did I not know? Even before I saw I was just about to say, some told me just go to Miss Johnson because I know Miss Johnson got a question. I also saw it pop up. Miss Johnson got a question. Go ahead, Miss Johnson.
Less of a question, more of a statement.
Mm-hmm.
I want us to also consider that it's not that they want to minimize or demonize, but they've seen the power and reality of what these symbols are.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about some of the world leaders who go to certain quote unquote third world countries
Mm-hmm.
and participate allegedly in ceremonies, get results, and then magically keep going back to these third world countries that would seem of no benefit for them, but they continue to go back and continue to receive positive results in their political and financial lives. So it's like, I know the power. I can't have you knowing the power because then I lose my power. Certain cultures are not matrilineal or family oriented. It's all about the self. Black and brown people do not have that same cultural lineage. So if they are taught, hey, we can share and be 10 times greater than our oppressors, that would knock over the whole system. So it can't be allowed. So just food for thought. I'm complete.
So you're saying some of the symbolisms that we're having is meant to keep us small, Miss Johnson?
If the true meaning, aside from the quote unquote demonic moniker, was known for some of the symbols, it would, say it
Hmm.
judicially,
Hmm.
it would change people's belief about themselves, their community, their work, and as Dr. Cheryl said, their purpose on earth. If I show you a mirror, a true mirror, instead of a funhouse mirror, your whole perspective changes. What you do, how you say, how you treat people changes. So I have to make sure that you continue to look at the funhouse mirror, and I have to reinforce it with media, with, in some cases, unfortunately, the church, with the school. I have to reinforce the negative image of yourself and your culture so that you can't truly step into self awareness and change the globe. So, yeah, it's important for you for the negative meaning to be reinforced rather than the true meaning. And I'm complete.
Excellent. Appreciate that. Dr. Shaw, what would you say to this as I know plenty of times my wife tells me about all the things that she learned from her grandparents, different rituals, some of the stories, some of the things that they keep alive through some of these oral historical traditioning. What would you say to this about the symbolisms, Dr. Shaw?
I think what first I want to say what Nicole said that was amazing.
Mm,
The funhouse mirror. If you think about the funhouse mirror keeps you distorted,
mm,
and they want to keep our story distorted. And I don't want to say they, but I want to say that we keep our stories distorted. Because even us as African Americans and then Africans, we even fighting against each other.
mm,
So yes, we do have rituals, we have language, we have stories, we have symbols, we have music, we have all those ceremonies. And we need to begin to embrace them and then teach it to our children. But then we also need to understand the practices that we share is important. It's very important. And this is why we don't do well. So some of us don't do well because we do not pass down what we do with our money. We don't have money conversations. We don't have health conversations. I was looking at something today. Someone said, "Oh, my father died of cancer." I don't know so now they're going back and forth because they think they have something going on in their colon, and they're trying to say, did dad die of colon cancer? What kind of cancer did he die from? And come to find out, he didn't even die from cancer, he died from HIV.
mm.
So it's like the lies that we tell, the things that we don't share, that continues to move on. So you still have no answers. And it continues the perpetual cycle that we live in secrets. We do not have any stories that are passed down, but story with story. And it's important for us to pass down the truths. So when they go to Mr. Sampson, as he is, like you call him, the Jay-Z of the funeral home, we have these stories that we can able to be, that we could tell it right at the funeral. We'll be able to tell it right to our grandchildren. And then those rituals became the foundation of what we are. And I'm complete.
Excellent. Excellent. Any other thoughts before we move on? Because we have to use, we must remember that, and once we start to get aware of our symbolism and start to keep alive those oral traditions or what our griots and our respective communities continuously share, we start to recognize the impact of recognizing how that has to be documented and be told accordingly. And before I move on from this slide, we start to recognize how so many things were stolen from the African continent and then represented as fact from either Greco or Roman. And you start to understand, depending upon who has, how should I say, the power allegedly, is how the story is going to be told. That's why when you start talking about history, are we talking about his story or history? And now we're starting to get back into the space that as a lot of these things have been unearthed, and we start to break down these perpetual symbolisms that were attempting to keep us small. And now it's like, wait a minute, I don't need Michelangelo's cousin on my wall. Take that down. And certain people, clutch their pearls like, how dare you say that? Take it down. That's not the right symbolism. Put the right symbolism up. Or you're afraid, as I heard Dr. Shaw and Nicole share, is that once we put the right symbolism up, now there's going to be a deeper and bigger conversation that will be had. Because now it's about, okay, you've been sharing a bunch of lies that are now being torn down. And sometimes a lie can get further than the truth, because if you say it enough times, it becomes the truth, even though it's still a lie. The power of self-authorship. Many influences shape us: our family, education, culture, religion, media, politics, those wonderful peers, and advertising. The developmental challenge is learning to participate consciously in forming one's own value and identity. Now, Ms. Johnson, as you look at this picture, you know, are the things outside of us influencing us, or is what is this picture saying to you, Ms. Johnson? There's a lot
To
going
me,
on in this picture,
it's
purposely.
showing the makeup of what we are. We think that we're just a collaboration of school, our parents, and our community, but you're not realizing the things you're reading on social media, the things you're hearing as you walk by a church on Sunday morning. They are enveloping your psyche and is being dispersed, as in this picture, into how you speak, act, and behave. And going back to Dr. Cheryl's statement earlier, these are things that can cause misalignment. And then I was looking it up. The way you get back into alignment is rediscovering who you are, your values, your decisions, your habit, and bringing them all back into agreement. So what you're opening your ear gaze, ear gate, eye gate, and mouth gate to could be helping or harming you as you try to improve your level of consciousness. And I'm complete.
So, Dr. Shaw, what does the picture say to you?
Um, it's a lot going on. Um, but I think it's all intertwined. That's what I see. Everything is intertwined. So all the outer parts make up the center of who you are. And I'm complete. Or
Excellent.
to say it from the outside in, your heart
Mm,
connected to everything out there. So you talked about the value system, and whatever that center is feeding, or vice versa. And I'm complete.
hmm. And it's actually they all working in concert with each other. See, it's like when we think about our ventricle system, which we all have one, and it all leads back to the heart. And the heart, not only they're pumping blood, but it's helping working with the lungs and movement. And so we can see what's coming out, but then as you go out, eventually you're supposed to return back to center. Some of those same blood cells that may end up in certain parts of your body will eventually, hopefully, get back to the heart. And when you hear like a blood clot or something that's a clog, that's really a clog. There's something that means what have you done that now some of these spaces or vessels are being clogged, which is not allowing the blood to flow appropriately, which can cause arrhythmia, which can cause an attack, which can cause a misstep. And so it's ultimately not only what we're sharing out, but what we're receiving. And then how does the cycle perpetuate itself? How do we learn about it? How do we develop it? How do we be in the space of consciously participating? Because eventually you have to form the identity. As much as that we can blame society, we can blame our parents, we can blame all the different things that we would love to blame outside of ourselves. And this is probably the times where me and Dr. Shaw have a debate because she would say, some of this stuff is based upon, how a person is nurtured in the particular environments and things of that nature. But then after a while, when do we become responsible for our choices? Or is it always based upon what we experience? To me, it feels like chicken and egg type of conversation because there's been plenty of examples of people who were developed in adverse conditions and still made it powerfully out. Why did they make a decision that some others didn't?
Dr.
And
Clark, I think we should open that up.
go
We
ahead.
have Mr. Richards and Junior's iPhone, see what they think.
Well, I believe Junior's iPhone is our last young son, who I believe has joined us tonight. So, Mr. Gregory Clark Jr., I would love to hear your voice. Any thoughts about self-authorship as you're developing in your own respective space? And then we'll go to Mr. Richards as well for a comment or some sort of interjection.
Well, hello everyone. How are you doing? Um, Self-authorship. Mm, I just need a deeper understanding, um, like a definition of it to understand it in a deeper level. If you could help me out with that.
Oh, no problem. You see the picture? See,
Yes.
so the picture is we use that as a visual representation of the overall thought. Self-authorship is your ability to start to take all of the respective experiences that you've had, every single one, because they all have some sort of relevance in our respective lives. And now, how do you shape that into becoming the person that you either are right now or you're becoming? So we all have some level of self-authorship. Some self-authorship people choose to keep themselves small. And sometimes me and your mother, when we have our debates, she'll say, well, no, that may not necessarily be true because, that's just how they were raised. Okay, I understand that. They were raised in a particular way. Now, what did they do after they were raised? Are we still moving in a cycle that I was raised like this? So that's the reason why I have self authored my experience or my life to be this, which for me, I don't believe that to be true. Everyone has the ability, based upon their own pertinent and sentient choices, to say, okay, I may be here now, but I can be where I choose to go to, or maybe I'm choosing not to go to. So that's a little bit of a opening about self authorship. So,
Okay. Well, well, what I got from that is that's just basically everything around you, which just everything about yourself, your story of your life, um, just basically what is happening in all aspects and how you're shaping yourself. Whether you're gonna be dwelling on the past or looking through the future, making sure you're not just dwelling on or relying on blaming everything around you, but you got to realize it for yourself. Like it literally in its name, self authorship. So that's what I got from that.
oh, that's excellent. Excellent. Mr. Richards, what say you, young sir?
Well, Dr. Clark, most of the thing when you look at the power of self authority, authorship, right? You look at it as a river because life is like a river, right? It has circles in it that they have certain things has to be fulfilled, but wherever the river starts, it also ends back the same way that it started. And we go through, like the family education and all those influences. That everything comes into perspective as we go along. But eventually, right? Eventually, we are the author and the finish of all, of the things that we do in life, and we're responsible. And I am complete.
Excellent. 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 Thank y'all for your shares. Thank y'all powerfully for your shares. So now we move towards the dynasty question this is all part of the dynasty path of teachings, regardless of its health, regardless of its financial, regardless of about your ontological space, about your being, which these past couple of weeks have been about more on the ontological side. And I believe Mr. Junior brought this up to bear. Instead of asking what happened to me, ask, what am I becoming? Identity develops through repeated choices over time. And that's why at times when I have those debates with my wife, and we may get into those parts about symbolism or nurture, nature, she has some very valid points. It's not a negative point that she's bringing up. The reason why I always kind of push back is that you can start off one way. I could have been, I was that kid from the Bronx, raised in the South Bronx, and I could have chose to say, okay, I just have what was within me that said that I'm choosing a different path. And there's plenty of things that from the neighborhood that I was raised up in that I was either involved in or could have been even more involved in. But after a while, I still had to make certain choices of like, okay, am I choosing to do this or am I choosing to do that? So Dr. Shaw, would you like to enlighten how sometimes we have those interesting questions or back and forths that we have?
Not really. Not really. No, I don't.
Why not? It's a great thought. Because Dr. Shaw be having me thinking. That's what I said. It's not that her side, and that's with any debate, and even like last week when we were having the conversation around anchors, and to me it was a very spirited debate, and I thoroughly enjoyed it because it's not about hearing just one way. It's just this way. Who told you that lie? Even here, as being a part of the Comeback Collective Circle, yes, there's a guidance form and a certain level of structure. But like even when we were looking at the picture about the tree, to sit there and say, "Oh, this line is going to go," just who told you that lie? Why are you attempting to control how that part of the route is going? How that route may go into another place that may open up another question, open up another possibility, open up another caveat, which adds more value to the whole. But we were so attempting to keep it structured and better go down a straight line like this, not recognizing it can limit what the possibility I could be in my becoming space. So our identity develops through repeated choices over time. And as the picture shows, person's looking in the mirror, hair's one way, and then the hair's another way. People say, "Oh my God, it must be something wrong with the picture." Is it? Or can you see yourself into what your next can be? That's when you keep yourself stuck in a box. When you can look in the mirror and says, "Only see, I'm only this." Who told you that? Who lied to you, and why did you believe that? It's your own. I only could be. No. Now you're choosing because you can look in that mirror and says, "Wait a minute, I can transform this." You can look in that mirror and says, "Wait a minute, there's something I can do." You look in this mirror and says, "Wait a minute, I can be as powerfully expressive if I so choose to be." Or if I'm choosing not to be powerfully expressed, then I'm making that choice as well. And when we really start moving in self-authorship, you start to recognize the more and more we start moving away from good and bad. Because now it's not about a good or bad thing. Now it's about, okay, what did you choose to do? And every choice has some sort of outcome. Instead of saying, "Oh, that was a bad thing and that was a good," no, that was a choice. And depending upon the human, did it work or did it not work? And as we start to move this thing into a close, the future of personal development. And the reason why I bring up about AI, because AI is not going anywhere. AI is something that you can shape for it to be a very powerful assistant in taking you to where you need to go. And it offers so many new possibilities by helping people reflect. You can track habits, you practice exercises, personalize your learning, and receive even sometimes as an assistance to guided coaching. And technology can support growth when paired with thoughtful human judgment and ethical use. That's why I brought up earlier about that whole thing of Anthropic settling that $1.5 billion settlement. Because at the end of the day, Anthropic did not say that they committed a crime in allegedly utilizing other people's works to train their model. They claim it to be fair use. So now the question started to morph into a fair use question and not so much a piracy question. So now we're talking about your ethical uses. And not even that, even though what you may consider ethical, somebody else may not consider ethical. And I'm not saying what's right or what's wrong, but then that opens up another conversation, that opens up another box, another window, another thing. But technology is only going to mirror what it is that you put into it, especially when it comes to, anointed intelligence. What you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. If you put some great possibilities in it to assist you in building something that can be spectacular, it can give you a tremendous result. Or you can utilize it as a space where you're just asking it, a bunch of questions because you're just choosing not to be able to be in a space of cognitively thinking. And that's when you're using the AI wrong, in my opinion. So you choose your day powerfully. And the final Dynasty insight, Max, Dr. Shaw, can you read this one for me, please?
Final Dynasty insight. The goal is not merely to gather more information. It is to cultivate, gather awareness, intentionality, and wisdom. A dynasty is built through repeated choices that aligns today's actions with tomorrow's vision.
So now, the goal is never merely to gather more information. Never position yourself to say, oh, I'm going to get every piece of, no, it's not about that. It's about recognizing that as you learn more about yourself and learn more about your self-authorship, and learn more about what anchors that you're moving in your life, learn more about how you've been conditioned. And as you start to do that, not only are you cultivating a greater awareness about yourself, but your intentionality in the respective spaces that you move through start to show, okay, why am I positioned here? What is my purpose here? And as you continue to delve into those areas, it starts to generate a new and greater space of wisdom that you can tap into, that you can work with, that you can be powerfully expressed through. And as we say, a dynasty is built through your repeated choices. Your repeated choices, that means your habits, what lifestyle choices that you've made. There was a time frame where, when I was young, we may have did certain things and drank a little much or smoked a little something. And then as I started to get a little wisdom, started to recognize that wasn't beneficial for my health or beneficial for where I was going. And you let go of those things that were good for a season. And you recognize, no, I don't necessarily have to do that. Because if it doesn't align with my actions of today, then it can affect my vision for tomorrow. And tomorrow is not just only as we're taping here on Tuesday and tomorrow's Wednesday, tomorrow could be that long-term vision of where you see yourself, how you position it. What are those repeated choices? Because today could be the day that you start losing that weight, even though you may not even lost a pound a day. Today is the day that you can start to become better with your money, even though you may not have earned any money today or earned more money today. Today can be the day that you're recognizing how powerful of a being you can be because you started to make those prerequisite moves on this very moment. It's your choice. You are empowered. Recognize your conditioning, what anchors you're going to accept or not accept, and how you even can rework those anchors. Then recognize, what am I consciously creating on a daily basis? Not just on a one day and say, oh, the other 6 days I'm not creating. No, what are you consciously creating on a daily basis? Because whatever age that we have arrived to at this particular moment, we have consciously conditioned ourselves to get to this particular point. And there's always an opportunity that says, wait a minute, I can do something today by my actions that can make me even better in that vision of myself. And the age is just a number. It's just a number. So with that being said, if I'm not mistaken, we are complete. Johnson, any thoughts? Any thoughts from anyone? Any takeaways? Any takeaways? Any takeaways?
Dr. Clark, if I could.
Please.
Yeah, this was fruitful. A lot of things came through my mind. I I had to acknowledge that I grew up in a world of contradictions.
Mm.
As a child, I had to deal with wondering how I was going to get my toys from Santa when I didn't have a chimney.
Mm.
Then when I was in my college years, I was looking at advertisement of men with cigarettes having two women on their arms. And this was the sign of masculinity. And now I have to deal with he, she, shim, them, they, and artists that I admired openly having polygamous relationships, and musicians and comedians who have open relationships. And I saw a cute movie last night where the lady said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm married." He said, "I'm not married. I'm this and that." And then he said, "I'm Polly." And she goes, "Oh, it's nice meeting you, Polly." And but this is the society we're in. So it brought me to the idea of what is your center? Because my center is definitely not going to be someone else's center. If my alignment is definitely not going to be someone, I mean, for someone to align themselves and be harmonious with having polygamy as a lifestyle, where my alignment definitely doesn't even reflect that. How do we juxtaposition ourselves amongst society when everyone is not designed, everyone is encouraged to be self this and self that? So how do we all work together if everyone's being selfish, but then yourself, I mean, do we have to just find like-minded selves, people that kind of deal with our values? Because there's so many variations now. And so that was one of the major things. Then another realization that came to me with the tree image is, at first I was judging the trees that didn't get the deep roots, but then I realized the roots that aren't deep are the ones that come up back above the earth and create other trees.
Mm.
None of the ones that are super deep in the third level become trees. Only the ones that branched out laterally and then came back up out the ground, they end up And that's how the forest is developed. One of the ways the forest is developed. If all the limbs went straight, if all the roots went straight down, there would only be one tree until a bird took a seed and dropped it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
But a lot of roots create other trees, especially in the hedge world. A lot of the hedges are from the roots of the other hedges, and they become bigger hedges. So those are just a lot of the nuances of thought that you provoked this evening. And I just wanted just to throw it out there, not for an answer, not for any, but just to throw it out there and to say thank you. Um, because we definitely live in a world of contradiction. And to find your own balance, I could see how challenging it could be for anyone. And you have to be strong. I came out of the projects as well. And some of my folks are still there. And they married somebody from the building next door. And they're still there.
Mm.
But that's their decision. That's their life. I don't judge them for it. I don't make them wrong for it. I still love them, still fellowship with them. But then, my life's path took me somewhere in a different direction. For what reason, I don't know. But, here I am. And, you know, thank you. I'm complete.
You're welcome. Great. Great takeaway. Any other takeaways? Any other takeaways? This is here to stimulate thought. It's always here to stimulate a thought. Takeaways. There's so much time that they desire for us who look like us to be quiet and be in the background. And we have the opportunity to be in those respective spaces to be like, wait a minute, I can literally be expressive. And it's not about right or wrong. It's about understanding. We're moving in a particular age where they're no longer playing the background. Even with the Democratic Party, as much as that we desire for them to win, we recognize how they have fumbled or taken advantage of the African American vote just as well as when the Republicans used to get our vote. Because you can't promise us stuff that you're not going to do. Now, you see what's going on the other side. But now, do we start to move in those awareness spaces to make sure that our community gets something out of this thing as well? So any thoughts, Miss Johnson, Miss Clark, before we start to bring this to a closey close?
Great knowledge. I'm glad I came here tonight. Um, I'm just learning and listening and adding more food for thought. But today's action can affect tomorrow's vision. So yes, that was a great message.
Excellent. Appreciate that. Anything, Miss Johnson? You still
No, my
calling
mind keeps going back to the tree analogy now. All that it means. But no, it's like normally I was thinking along the mindset of, oh yeah, it makes you deeper, makes you thinker. But listening to Mr. Sampson speak, I'm realizing that the roots that don't make it out to the top to become new trees are the ones that don't go deeper to stabilize the tree. Some might sit in the middle and decompose, and you're thinking, damn, they're dead. But that's food for the next generation of tree. So even when you think you have no impact, you're still feeding into the system. So make sure that you're good compost.
Mm,
And I'm complete.
that's good. I like that. Miss Clark, Dr. Clark.
I think this was very stimulating. I think just next week we just have one picture and just have a discussion around it, one picture. Because that one picture, honestly, I think the comeback discussions because it's really important for us to understand because that one picture, you did all the other slides, but that one picture is the one that we're still staying on because it goes deeper. What is our root system understanding? Like we have our son on this call where he took away from whatever part it was of that, but my root system goes really deep. But then I'm gonna have to ask, I really don't even know one part of my root system.
Mm.
I don't know my father's side of the family, and I don't really know them. And I have to really look at that because I did my blood and did all that. I have a lot of my father's traits, and I have to really look at that because what my mother is ailed with, I don't have, and it's in my root system. I gotta look at that. It comes to my health, it comes to how I learn, comes to how I a whole lot. So thank you for putting that picture up. And thank you to Mr. Sampson for even bringing me up to the space and even say, oh yeah, by the way, the picture on the left. And I'm like, there is a whole picture on the left of and sometimes just make you notice like if the lesson for me tonight was slow up, Cheryl. Look at the whole picture. Yes, he asked you to do this, but did you even miss you missed the whole tree. You missed the whole thing. And sometimes you just got to slow up in this space. So my thing today is slow up and look at the whole picture. And I'm complete.
Excellent, excellent. Mr. Richards, you have anything?
Well, Dr. Clark, experience is the mother of skills.
Mm.
And the deeper you go into things, the more level of understanding you get because the deep call unto deep. So when
Mm.
you're going deep, there's a lot of things that comes out, even valuable things, and it's necessary because a closed mouth never get fed. I'm complete.
Excellent, 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 and excellent.
Can I share one more thing, Doc?
Oh, please, please.
Yes, we had the pleasure of seeing the root system underneath. But in our world, above ground,
Mm.
we see these beautiful trees. And until pressure is applied, we do not realize that the inside of the tree was rotten.
Mm.
And pressure will show this beautiful tree that we were admiring was weak inside when a hurricane comes through and cracks it. And then you see that the inside was rotted out. So getting back to my sister Cheryl, we got to look at the whole picture, inside, outside, above ground, below ground. And as you were alluding, Dr. Clark, we got to check our organs. We got to thank our organs because our epidermis we're seeing our hair or lack of hair. We're seeing our skin. But what is going on inside of us that could be deteriorating? And then as soon as pressure comes, it reveals itself and breaks us. I'm complete.
Excellent. Come on now. I almost do like what the little kids do. You clock it. That's what Dr. Cheryl, when the little kid said, no, you got to clock it. Can't not even hand clap, just clock it. That was a clockable moment. That was a clockable moment. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So as we conclude for today, this is our opportunity to recognize how you can support the platform. For those of you who are watching this video afterwards, it's your opportunity to become a part of the Comeback Collective Circle. Um, this, conversation slash teaching has some value, and we always appreciate you, leaving something that we can use to continue to advance the platform and promote the platform. If you do it via Cash App, it's $Gregory Clark D Min. Or if you choose to do it via Venmo, drop off the $. It's the same name, Gregory Clark D Min. And if you choose to do it via Zelle or PayPal, it's the same email address, esquire971@gmail.com. And when we come back next week for another edition of the Comeback Conversations, I just see nothing but graceful prosperity for everyone. Continue to maneuver effectively. Continue to allow your head to stay upright as you continue to stay grounded in all the things that you're manifesting and as you continue to develop your own respective identity. And also, we appreciate you to be a part. Things are starting to move at another level now with the circle, and can't wait to share some of those possibilities very shortly. So, member circles and those watching, have a great week and continue to be magnificent as you move. Have a great evening.
Good night.
Good night to all. God bless.
Right.